The other thing that I want for myself is figuring out the algorithm because it changes so much. If there was a tool that would analyze daily and like today, 7 a.m. Pacific works the best on LinkedIn kind of thing and schedule my posts automatically, I would get it no matter what the price is.
Today's successful revenue leaders once started their careers just like you and I. They faced the challenges that their careers brought to them, they rose to the occasion, and became the leaders that we admire today. Join me as we explore the skills and stories that make a great leader with a pinch of vulnerability. Hello and welcome to Sales Therapy. I'm your host, Alper Yurder. Grab a chair. This is your exclusive invitation to the therapy room, as leaders are going to be sharing their career-defining moments, their secret tips and tricks in their arsenal towards success. And I promise we'll always end on a positive note. All right, so today in the therapy chair, we have Emir Atlı, who is the co-founder and CEO of Hockeystack, a go-to-market analytics platform for B2B companies to analyze, forecast, and optimize their marketing. You might be seeing Hockeystack and their media platform all around LinkedIn and all social channels. They're the talk of town lately, very rightfully so. So we'll talk about that. And they also recently raised a round to enable their growth, which is really interesting in the middle of this sugar storm. So maybe we delve into that a little bit. Anybody looking to raise, maybe they can get some tips from him here today. But we'll talk about his success, the joy, the pain, and the journey. Welcome to Sales Therapy, Emir. How are you feeling today?
Thank you so much for having me on. I'm feeling great. This is still early in San Francisco, so it's my first call podcast, but I'm feeling great. How are you?
Excellent. I'm doing great too. Actually, this is the end of my day. So you are the fourth of my podcast today, which, I mean, I had some really amazing guests, and I think I'm ending it on a very high note with you. So that's a good day for me.
Thank you.
Okay, my pleasure. So you said it's 10:30 in San Fran? Is that correct?
9 a.m.
9. Okay. So it's around 5 p.m. here in London, and on a Friday evening we're recording this. So I think it's about time I go get a drink, but I'll do my best to stay through the end of the podcast today. So Emir, generally I love understanding a little bit my guest. Obviously I gave a brief intro, but did I miss anything major there? Do you want to do your own intro for our viewers, our audience?
Yeah, it was a pretty good intro. I am one of the co-founders and CEO of Hockeystack, a GTM analytics platform for B2B. I was born and raised in Turkey. Right now, I live in San Francisco with my co-founders and 3 members of our team in scaling Hockeystack.
Where in Turkey were you born and raised?
Istanbul.
You're okay. We're both Istanbulites here. Good. Excellent. So I ask that. I'm glad that you delve into where you grow up, because the good therapy starts with childhood and growing up memories first. We learn the person that you became through the growing up experience. Can you tell us a little bit about that? How was that growing up experience for you in Istanbul?
Yeah, I think I had a great childhood from like when I was 10 years old. My parents asked me to come to United States with them. They showed me all around East Coast. We visited a lot of top universities there because they always wanted me to study here. For college, and then from that time to now, I always wanted to start my own company because of my dad, who kind of like inspired me and motivated me to do so. Yeah, and it was always my dream to start a company here, and I was a really good student because I knew that was what I had to do to get into a good college here. And then I got into Williams College in the East Coast with under 10% scholarship. They covered my flights and everything else. And then I moved to US that way. And then once we got some traction for Hockeystack, we got a pre-seed investment. And then with that, I had to drop out to move to San Francisco. It was a part of the deal. And then when I moved to San Francisco, about 2 months after that, we got into Y Combinator as the first company to enter the batch. And then just things started happening after that.
I love that.
Yeah, and then
We'll hear about the magic right after that. But
yeah,
I don't wanna skip to the YC just yet. I want to hold you a little bit in the childhood, and I'm gonna ask you about, was your dad also an entrepreneur?
yeah,
Okay. I was
yeah.
sensing that. So you kind of had that inspiration from the dad side.
Yeah, he became an entrepreneur when he was like 30, in like late 30s. It was something that he regretted, I think. So yeah, I wanted to start earlier.
Okay. So fresh out of uni, actually dropping uni, if I can understand correctly, you started Hockeystack.
Yeah, I dropped out of college to scale Hockeystack. During college and before college, we were building Hockeystack. It wasn't like we didn't have any customers, but we were building, testing the things, and then just like trying to get customers without success. And then after that period, I think after like pivoting for a bunch of times, we landed on a great idea, which is the tool right now, revenue attribution for B2B, especially B2B SaaS. And then with that, we started getting a few customers. I mean, like small customers, but we thought it was gonna work. There were like
Hmm.
initial signs of it. And then with the pre-seed investment, we had to drop out.
Okay. So in 10 years, when they make your movie, you'll have that classic founder story, I guess. The classic
Yeah.
college dropout. And okay, fine. Fantastic. So we started already talking about the YC journey. I mean, a lot of people always aspire to YC. How did that start for you? Did you just apply out of nowhere? Did you know anybody? Tell us a little bit about that.
Yeah. Um, we got this angel investment from one of the partners, Y Combinator. We met in Palo Alto.
Mm-hmm.
And then we were raising a seed round back then. So we were raising a like an average seed round. We didn't really have any traction. We were still really, really small. And then we wanted to apply to Y Combinator. And then we applied and then got in. And then as we got into Y Combinator, we didn't do the seed round, waited until summer. This is like last year, March, I think.
Mm-hmm.
So we had to wait until summer, and then we did YC, and then raised a small extension round, and then skipped Series A.
Okay. How was all that raising experience for you, especially now that, times are a little bit difficult?
It was a different experience for us because we were not a seed company. We were like a Series A company, but we were fresh out of YC. We had the most revenue in our YC batch, and we didn't want to dilute so much. We didn't want to
Mm-hmm.
give out of stock, of shares to investors for this round, especially. So we raised it at really like a higher valuation. I think it was a different experience than other YC, especially YC companies, because they usually just like build the MVP and get their first one, two
Yeah.
customers and want to
Yeah.
raise a seed round at like 15, 20 million. And it's really easy. For us, it was a little bit more difficult because they treat us as a YC company, but we were like further along than all of them. So it was a little bit more difficult. I think it took 2 weeks longer than an average YC company, which is like usually like I think 3 weeks. Ours took
Mm.
5 weeks to complete the run, which is still really good. It was a really good experience, and we got a lot of tier one investors and really good angels, which is helping a lot right now.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, it was a great experience.
I love that. It's so funny, like that advantage. Then you had to combat the perception. We're not just the
Yeah.
young kids from the block. We're actually generating revenue. That's really good. And you said you were one of the first to enter the batch, right? Or if not the first.
Yeah, I think the first or second.
Why do you think that is? Like, is it because of the problem you're solving? Is it the team? I mean, it must be a combination of things, but.
I think it's mainly because if you check out any kind of like YC resources, the first couple of things that they're looking for is one, the relationship between co-founders. Two, if you want to do this for the next 10 years. And three, if you're building something that people want.
Mhm.
I've known my co-founder and CEO Bura for 7 years. We built a ton of things together, and we have been best friends for the last 7 years. And I met with Arda 4 years ago, and we have been really good friends since then. So it was clear that we didn't meet like 6 months ago
Mhm.
to build Hockeystack.
Yeah.
We have been
Yeah.
together for a long time. Average co-founder relationship last 4 years. We were in year 7 as best friends once we start building Hockeystack. And then the second thing is it was clear that we want to build this for the next 10 years because even without traction, we continued building Hockeystack for 2 years. We
Mm.
built like product analytics tool at the beginning for ourselves. It was our challenge with another startup that we were building. We built a web analytics product, a Google Analytics alternative for SMBs. We built a lot of stuff before it worked. So it's clear that we were going to build this for the next 10 years. And the other thing is, once we were applying for YC, we didn't have any money to like spend on marketing or anything like that. But we had a few customers that really loved the product as it
Mhm.
is. And the product was a terrible product because we only had 2 engineers, no resources, but still people loved it. So it was a really clear early sign that if we had the resources to build a really good
Mhm.
product, people would love it as well. So I think those three signs were really
Yeah,
important
I
for
like what you allude
YC.
to in terms of it takes like the next 10 years it was clear that you could build together. That's really important because a lot of people jump to the startup story thinking in 2 3 years they'll be the big shots, but this takes on average quite a long time, and in that time it's a bit like a marriage, isn't it? That founder relationship has to be intact.
Yeah, exactly. Every time that kind of like during the YC batch, every time we were stressing out over something or like I don't know, a customer, a big deal, product churn, anything that we were stressing about, even though there was nothing, or like we were sometimes stressing about the feature. Every time
Hmm.
we were dealing with something like that, our partners were saying that we're asking, "Are you going to build this for the next 10 years?" We're saying yes. And they were saying, "Yeah, then you can figure it out. You still have time." It's a really big relief that you know that you're going to build this for the next 10 years.
Yeah, that's really lucky. Great. I read today. I think it was a sifted article that I read today from a founder friend here in London, the founder of Calda, Daniel Watchaby. He talks about founder therapy between co-founders, like it's like marriage or marriage counseling, that sort of thing, because it can be a really intense relationship. You have to find the right people to jump on that. All
Yeah.
right, let's talk a little bit about, we keep saying hockey stack, but what is hockey stack in a nutshell, without boring people with too much pitching? Can you explain to us what is it in a nutshell, and why did you start doing it?
Yeah, Hockeystack, in a nutshell, connects all of your platforms. Think about the tools that you're using day to day in your marketing and sales tech stack. So your CRM, marketing automation platform, all of your app platforms, intent, G2, everything. Hockeystack integrates with all of them, cleans and enriches the data, centralizes it, and it allows marketing teams to understand what's working, what's not working, what has the highest ROI. And then we sync that data to sales team so that they can reach out to their accounts that show intent, and then we allow them to see the buyer journey so that they can customize their message.
Mm-hmm. And
And yeah, we're mainly selling to marketing and sales teams in B2B mid-market enterprise, from like mid-market to some of the largest software companies today use Hockeystack to make better decisions.
love that. So I think the marketing side is very intuitive, but can you maybe explain, like, when you talk about the marketing use case versus the sales use case, or if they're together, like how do you explain it to those different roles, the benefit they can get from the
Yeah,
product?
yeah. Sales is something that we have been working on for the last 2 months, and we have our customers are using it for sales, but we don't directly sell to sales right now. But we will start end of Q1. For sales, we have a really incredible data set because we can basically see the entire customer journey from the first impression to close one with all the marketing
Hmm.
and sales touch points. So once you start using Hockeystack, we get all the previous 2 years of data. With machine learning, we understand what is prompting buyers to contact sales or schedule a call or like move through the funnel. And
Hmm.
then we use this data to score new accounts for SDRs. Even though there's no deal with an account, if we can see that there's a really high chance of booking the deal, we sync
Hmm.
the data back to SDRs with buyer journey highlights through Salesforce and Hockeystack. That's the SDR use case. And we also have third party intent as well as first party intent, kind of like to create that intent score. For
Hmm.
AEs, if you're working on 30, 35 deals, you can see all the buyer journey highlights, get notifications whenever an account that you're working on is on the website, checking out any resources or anything like that.
Hmm.
And then you can also see buyer journey highlights, to customize your message on the accounts that you're working on.
Okay. So if you say, for example, I am an HR tech founder, or I am the CRO of an HR tech tool, Series A, B, whatever. Um, uh, how would that conversation between us happen? Like, so for example, if I'm trying to sell to enterprise companies, how could I use Hockey Stack in my workflow?
Is for sales.
Could be both. Let's just say for the
Yeah,
whole revenue team.
we usually sell to the marketing team, and then first month we set up everything. They get used to the platform. Second month, they start building their own kind of like reports, customized reports, use it in day to day life. And then third month, usually end of the first quarter, they want their sales team to see the data as well.
Hmm.
That's the usual pattern for all of our customers. And
Hmm.
at that point, they want their sales team to see the key highlights in their buyer journey. And then we send properties back to Salesforce so that they can see those properties, kind of like, this account has high intent, this account has high engagement on LinkedIn ads, this account has been checking pricing pages, kind of like those properties, so that when they filter out companies or build account lists on Salesforce, they can use those properties. That's the first way. Second way, we have sales buyer journey highlights on Hockeystack, so they can see all of their accounts one by one and then see the key highlights for the last day or last week, to customize their message and see who is an active buyer and not.
Hmm.
And then the last part is for account based motions, especially on the enterprise side. We can see contact visiting the website, both identified and unidentified, and then see like the whole buyer committee with their actions, and then all the intent signals from third party and first party sources for them to like reach out, customize their
Hmm.
messages, and
I, I,
prioritize
I
accounts.
I hear a lot of different futures from different products in there. There's a bit of revenue intelligence. There's a bit of, I guess, I'm not sure what's the category of, but lead feeder, that sort of like analytics. There's elements of Flowla, which is like which content people engage with. So you're building like a holistic machine for anything that is intent data, so you can make better decisions, I guess, from what I understand.
Yeah, so our approach was, and this is the first time that I'm talking about this, but like our approach was we saw a gap in the attribution space.
Mm-hmm.
But from the very first days, we knew that an attribution platform isn't the end goal.
Mm-hmm.
But there's a really big gap. There still is a really big gap in the attribution space. So we entered the space, shook things a little bit, scaled from 0 to 7 figures in a year, raised some capital to build further. And then our goal is to expand into sales and then feed the signals that we have into sales workflows. And then in a year, next year, maybe like towards the end of the next year, sell to customer success teams as well with product
All right.
insights. So we want to
Well,
build that revenue decision making center for the entire revenue team.
okay. Well, welcome to our already very crowded space. So are we going to be competitors at some point? That's great to hear on the show. So I have a few questions from all that conversation, which is really interesting. Actually, generally in the flow of the podcast, I go into your, your success journey, your career journey a little bit more. But since we delve into these questions already, I have some specific questions from our users, which I generally collect in advance. And I want to shoot a few of them, like rapid fire questions, if you don't mind. And feel free to take any of
Sure.
them, leave any of them, whatever. So the attribution problem, since you start talking about it, which is very real, all my decade of sales leadership fights between sales and marketing, where it goes, blah blah. Where do we stand in the attribution problem with companies today? Is there still a major problem, and how are they fixing it?
So how Hockeystack is fixing it?
Yeah, how Hockeystack is fixing it. I think we heard a little bit how Hockeystack is fixing it, but in general, like, what are people doing to, when you ask them the question in your discovery, like, what have you done before coming to Hockeystack or etc.? Like, what do they tell you to combat that attribution problem?
Yeah, even the most kind of like biggest, most enterprise B2B software companies, they're still using Last Touch or First Touch. So
Mm-hmm.
if the Last Touch is an SDR email, the outbound team is getting the entire credit. If the Last Touch is a direct visit to the website, marketing team gets the entire credit. So they're still using that model, and or they're using Salesforce campaigns plus a Looker Data Studio. And the Looker Data Studio is really hard to use, so it's not like a day-to-day thing. It's
Mm-hmm.
just used when there's a board meeting coming up. They just like create a report, show it to the board, and then no one takes action. How Akistack is fixing this problem is we are tracking the entire buyer journey because there are hundreds of touch points. So if you're just
Yeah.
using last touch or first touch, you're going to make decisions based on a front data set. That's the first thing. The second thing is we have a really high user adoption because the tool is really easy to use and it's completely flexible. So you can build any type of report with our dashboard builder, which is unique to Hockeystack and the space. So any type of question that you want to ask, you can use Hockeystack to do it so that you're actually optimizing for the right things. And the third thing is from the day we started, we have been telling that deals by definition can't have a source because a deal has, I don't know, dozens of stakeholders, hundreds of touch points. So there's no source really. We allow customers to understand what is working, what's not working, so that they can optimize with the same budget, do more
Mm-hmm.
with less.
Mm-hmm.
Like everyone hates that, but do more with less. And then within marketing and sales, we allow them to align around the same KPIs, same goals, same metrics, and same accounts, which is really important. What
Yeah.
I've discovered by working with dozens of our customers is we sync data from Salesforce, so the accounts that sales has been outbounding and working on.
Mm-hmm.
There's a really big gap between those accounts and the accounts that marketing is advertising towards. So they are working on two separate account lists at the same time with two different budgets. There's like really low overlap between those accounts. So Akistack's other kind of like goal is to align those two teams around the same KPI, same metrics, and same accounts with a unified dashboard.
So more an all-bound motion, and you work towards a common goal,
Yeah.
like a revenue goal. Okay, I think that seems to
Yeah.
be kind of the norm. I've been having these conversations, especially the last 2 3 weeks. A lot of people are, somehow ditching the outbound, inbound, or the attribution discussions, and just trying to align the whole team across a common goal. And at the end of the day, it's the revenue you bring in or not. So that's really cool. I have a question a little bit about maybe your preferences as you. So now you're a CRO, but you're a CRO of a product or a company whose main audience, at least in the beginning, now you're going to sales, but it was marketing. So
Mhm.
within marketing, which areas of marketing, is it growth, is it content, is it outbound or whatever, where do you see like the most gap or the most space for development? Like which of those things within marketing can be really improved to have a revenue impact?
Is it like if I wanted to build a new kind of like SaaS product, where I would build it in,
Maybe,
or where in
maybe,
the
maybe.
yeah? I think there's a really big gap. So I'm gonna answer from our like our perspective, and then what
Yeah.
I see because I've done marketing for a hockey stack for a long time. From my perspective, with a tool like Hockeystack, and this is something that we are building right now. And I think with every single marketing product as well, most of the marketing products get the data, turn it into something new, and then ask marketers to analyze that and then to make actions and make decisions. And there's a really big gap between analyzing the data and turning into decisions because most marketers are afraid of the decisions that they're making because
Mm-hmm.
they have a budget and they need to turn that budget into something big. So if they get $1 million, they need to turn it into $3 million. If you ask them to make a decision, they're afraid that it's not going to happen, and they stick to the old playbook. They're saying like, we have been spending this much on LinkedIn. Should we continue? We should continue spending that much on LinkedIn because it's like I'm not gonna be punished for that. But if I make a decision, shift budget from LinkedIn to connected TV, it doesn't work out. I'm gonna be punished. So I think the from the analyzing to actioning piece, there's a really big gap. We're still working towards it, but there's a really big gap for all the marketing
Mm.
tools. So that would be something that I would be working on. Another thing is I think LinkedIn is still in the early days. If you look at Facebook's journey, LinkedIn is probably what Facebook was like 5 years ago. So there's still a couple of years of development on the LinkedIn side. Then LinkedIn, like I think 6 months ago, 6, 7 months ago, reached 1 billion users. So it's still a green space for a lot of creators, especially in B2B. I think we will see a lot of more SaaS products that will make it easier to create content on LinkedIn and track its influence. And then also the other thing that I want for myself is figuring out the algorithm because it changes so much. If there was a tool they would analyze daily, kind of like today, 7 a.m. Pacific works the best on LinkedIn, kind of thing, and schedule my posts automatically, I would get it no matter what the price is. So,
Wow.
yeah,
Yeah.
those are the two things.
Figuring out the algorithm. I can't believe you said that. I think you've just given us the teaser for this for this episode. I think that's something that everybody wants to figure. But in terms of your
Yeah.
go-to-market motion, as far as I have been following Hockeystack from afar, you brought in like a superstar head of content, and your content. I think a lot of people view it. Even before I met you, I heard about the company. So how did that thinking shape? Like, why did you dwell on content so much? Where did that come from, and how are you evolving it?
Yeah, it was something natural for us when we first started. Me and my co-founder, we thought like probably everyone in B2B spends time on LinkedIn, and this was like a year ago. And there were like still a lot of creators, but I think a lot less from what we see today. And we thought like if we can get people to see our content over time, they will want to know what we do, and over time they will check out Hockey Stack.
Hmm.
And once they check out if it's interesting, they will book a demo. So it's the same thing with email. You send an email. If people are interested, they read the email. If they're interested enough, they check out Hockey Stack. And if they're interested enough after that, they book a demo. So it's the same thing, but you're like on a social platform with content. And then we started testing it for 4 months. Me and my co-founder, we posted every day, like once 6 a.m. Pacific, once 12 a.m. 12 p.m. Pacific. And then over like 3 or 4 months, we started seeing the early results, and we got our first 4 customers from LinkedIn. And then it was a clear sign that if we can figure this out, it would work well. And then after that, we kind of like developed a content machine for LinkedIn, and then turned that into a media company with the Flow, which is our
Hmm.
like Netflix style content page. It was something different. I really fell in love with LinkedIn and how you can actually kind of like network and make
Yeah.
people want to see your content. And then over time, it turned into something that if I don't post for 2 3 days, I started getting messages about like what happened kind of thing, and it just really made me feel like actually people are actually reading your content.
Hmm.
It's the best feeling in the world. Um, and then it turned into our best revenue stream, and then we built a good content team, and then recently we started to getting into the next level with research reports, Hockeystack Labs, um, our own templates, Hockeystack template library, kind of like getting into a product marketing thing. If I'm gonna be honest, the thing that we really failed at is we wanted to keep it at like 50% entertainment, 50% like product marketing. And then we just couldn't figure it out. Sometimes we do 100% product marketing, everything is about product. Sometimes we do
Hmm.
100% entertainment. And this
Hmm.
is something that we are still figuring out. But I think we are getting better at it. So
Absolutely, you are, and I feel very much on this very same journey as you. And I think 200% I agree with everything you said. Apart from the fact that I think LinkedIn is unfortunately lately, with the algorithm becoming Facebook ever faster. I don't think it'll take it 5 years to be Facebook, and I say it in a negative way, meaning people just posting really boomer stories, and I can't put up with it, and the algorithm punishing. Some, I completely agree, and I was just next week I'm going to be talking about LinkedIn and how to grow, and exactly the things that you mentioned, and I'm writing about it, wrecking my brains about it. When I see like great research and data-driven posts from the likes of you guys, I'm just driven to it. I mean, I want to read it. That's free research, which is of value. But there's so much dumb shit as well, don't you think?
yeah, my thinking process on that was so I thought like the hardest to reach audience is founders and C-suite and
Hmm.
VCs. Founders don't really have time to read anything or watch anything. If you post a video, founders are not gonna watch it. C-suite busier than ever, and VCs they are smarter than everyone else, and they're really busy as well. So I thought like who are these people watching, and like what is the content that these people are consuming, and I made a list. Jason Lemkin, 20 VC, Nathan Latka, and a few others. And I kind of saw the pattern in this content that these people, the busiest people, smartest people in the world, are actually taking time and watching and reading. And all of this is the unique content that you can never find anywhere else because they are doing something unique. For example, Jason Lemkin, because of his network and like the companies that he invested in and things like that, he can have people to share things that you would never hear anywhere else. For
Yeah.
example, he has like Box's CEO sharing their revenue and then like what they did, and then from the early days what they did. Nathan Lutkin to interviews founders and they'll ask them to share their revenue transparently on a podcast, and then
Hmm.
gets them to a database. And then these are the content types that you can, this is unique to them. So I thought like what can we do that no one else can do? And then we have a really big data set from like dozens of companies that we work with, from their CRM to marketing automation to how much they're spending on ads, how much they're getting out of it. And I thought if you can turn this into content that people actually want to read, and if you want to know what is this average CTR on LinkedIn, so that you can compare for benchmarks, what is the, I don't know, January was really slow for a lot of companies in SaaS, and if they want to know why or is it normal, they would go to Hockeystack.
Yeah.
So I thought that we have a chance to become something unique,
Yeah.
so that people can actually take time out of their really
Yeah.
busy day
And
and read
thank you
it.
for sharing so generously today on the on this chat, because I think a lot of people are trying to crack these things, and you just shared the formula, which is wonderful. And one more thing I'll add there, I think data driven, fact based storytelling is still the most powerful thing that I get driven towards on LinkedIn. And if you kind of figure out a formula for doing that, even better with all that data that you have. It's a bit like fortune tellers or oracles of ancient world. Like they get the data, they tell it to the people, and people are just treating them as superstars. So if you do that with your content, then telling them about this insight about January. If you're a marketer thinking like, oh, why is my January shit, and then you see this content from Hockeystack, January is shit because it's shit for everybody, then it's a very strong proposition.
Yeah, and I mean, you don't need to have all those data points to make your content unique. I'm sure every company, every founder, every marketing team has something to share that no one else, or like even like a few people can share.
Hmm.
In the worst case scenario, very worst case scenario, if you can't find anything, there are a lot of third party data points that you can use and craft a unique story as well.
Yeah, but at the end of the day, you need to know who you are writing for, like who's your audience properly, and try to drill down on that, and make sure that it's again the ICP, the persona problem. Like, who are you writing for? Who are you trying to approach? Are they relevant, etc., etc. One question I
Yeah.
have for you. Obviously, these things started SaaS and tech and all these early adapters. How do you see this trend spreading from tech to other industries? Like all these growth through content or LinkedIn. Do you see it happening for other industries as well?
I think there's a small circle on LinkedIn.
Yeah.
It's like talking about dementia and LinkedIn social and things like that. But every day we have at least a dozen sales calls with mid-market enterprise companies. And other than that circle, no one is talking about dementia and no one is talking about LinkedIn social. All the enterprise companies are still doing ebooks, white papers, and lead gen tactics. And I don't think they will stop. So I think now there's now really a change. A trend that I'm seeing is, especially on the enterprise side, they're saying kind of like they don't say dimension, but what they are saying is they want to ungate content. They say
Mm.
that we don't want to ask for emails to view our content, but they're afraid that they wouldn't be able to track the influence, so they come to us. But they don't really say dimension. But I think there are some early signs of like they're trying to see what else is out there, what else can they do. But I don't think there's like 0.1% of marketers in overall SaaS companies that are talking about dimension and LinkedIn social. So it's still very, very early days.
I don't know what to do of that. Do you think it's a good thing that it's so small, or is it a?
I don't know if it's good or bad, but I think there's still a really green space. But the other thing is also sometimes I see founders and marketing leaders like directing everything towards LinkedIn social and dimension, and like leaving everything behind. I think again, same with our LinkedIn content that we discussed earlier. There needs to be a mix. I think you still need to be on traditional channels, do traditional tactics to reach the audience, and LinkedIn social and this all this dimension tactics, growth tactics that I mentioned earlier, they're still attracting 10-15% of the overall market,
Yeah.
which is still valuable
Yeah.
because not many people are doing it. So you have a chance and a good chance of reaching that 15-20% of the market. But for the 80%, especially if you're targeting enterprise, you still need to be on traditional channels.
Which are?
And offline events are huge.
Hmm.
Dinners, trade shows, even like booths at events. They're
Yeah.
still huge if you're a targeting enterprise. If they go to SaaS or B2B whatever, they're a vendor of theirs. They want to see their booth so that they know you're still doing good. You still have money to spend on that. It's
Hmm.
not really like scanning badges and things like this. Like, yeah, I can still afford this booth kind of thing.
Hmm.
Um,
Credibility.
webinars. A lot of our enterprise customers are still doing content syndication. I've never done it, so I don't know, but everyone is doing it. But for me, it's offline events, more like smaller dinners, booths, being at events, like more offline things. I think are
Yeah.
still the way to reach
The
enterprise.
connection. Yeah. So you already mentioned like what other than content, how are you judging up your go-to-market motion? And I think that's going to be really powerful for people. We every quarter try to reevaluate what we're doing and starting. Okay, long story short, I'm going to ask you this question. Would you be able to say by investment level or something like that, which channel makes the most sense? If you were to start now as a founder, pre-seed, seed, series A, B of a B2B startup, where does it make sense for you to invest in? Is it content? Is it outreach? Is it events?
Yeah, what I would do is I would start building an audience on LinkedIn, share posts every day. What we did earlier, really, really early days, is we made a list of like 100 people and then we DM'd them one by one to like talk to them for 15 to
Hmm.
20 minutes, ask for their advice kind of thing, just like meeting people. That really worked well. So I would make that list. I would start posting on LinkedIn, engaging with people, meeting new people, and then start running LinkedIn ads with a small budget, maybe like I don't know, 2-3K a month because you can really target the audience that you want on LinkedIn. And then I just do LinkedIn ads and LinkedIn social until I would put a milestone, and until I reach that milestone, I would do LinkedIn ads and LinkedIn social. And after that milestone, I would get into Google ads and like branded keywords, competitor keywords. Those are more expensive but really high intent. And the most important thing there is if you're like when you advertise on a competitor name, you shouldn't stop at advertising and letting people kind of like book them on your website. What
Hmm.
we do is every time someone enters the website from a competitive keyword, we reach out to the company if we have company identified through like reverse IP. If we have the email, we reach out in like 10-15 minutes. I ask my team to reach out within an hour if possible. If not possible, within a day. Really like I saw that you were researching what visible Hockeystack does XYZ, kind of like asking for that, calling them, everything. So really squeezing the juice out of these
Yep.
signals.
Yeah.
Um, and after Google, I don't know what the budget is. Probably I would get into those like offline things that I mentioned earlier. So with probably like Google, LinkedIn, and LinkedIn Social, any SaaS company with a good product can get into kind of like I don't know, a few millions in ARR, and after that you probably have data to look at to see what makes sense.
Yeah.
And after that you can do I know offline events, ABM, set up an outbound motion, whatever you want to do. But those
Mm.
three would be enough
Okay.
to get to a few millions in
This
ARR.
this this episode has been so different from my usual flow, but it's also been like full of gems you've been throwing in the sense that like I think we're gonna make a million shorts from this conversation because it's so much practical for people who are trying to achieve things. But I'm still gonna end on sales therapy note. I have one or two questions which are a bit more personal. The first one is you're building Hockeystack in the US. Do you think
Yeah,
every B2B SaaS business has to be built in the US? What are the pros and cons
yeah.
of not building in the US?
I think every SaaS company needs to be in San Francisco. Pros, like there are a ton.
Yeah, clearly.
Um, every single day you are surrounded by this community. It's like, for example, I live in South Beach in San Francisco. If anyone knows San Francisco, it's close to Oracle Park. So whenever I leave my house, if I walk to the other street, Anderson Horowitz, Kleiner Perkins,
Yeah.
Excel, Peer VC, everyone is on the same streets. Every single day when I'm getting my coffee, surrounded by these like VCs. Figma's office is here, GitHub's office is here. I know all the SaaS companies are in San Francisco. So it's a really good in a way, it's a mental challenge too, because you're surrounded by these companies and you're reminded to be working all the time,
Yeah.
which is a really good
Yeah.
advantage. And then it's just, if you're in San Francisco, it's, I think, an unfair advantage because, in my opinion, and shouldn't be the case, people, prospects, VCs, everyone kind of like, not like respects you more, but I think cares a lot more
Mhm.
when you're in San Francisco and New York, especially in those two cities. Disadvantage is really expensive. It's probably the biggest one. And probably as a founder, there's not much going on in terms of kind of like social life in San Francisco. Those are the big two disadvantages, but the advantages are huge. And also hiring market. It's worse than probably what it was 2 or 3 years ago, especially before COVID, but still the best engineers are in San Francisco. And I am a really big believer in person work still. So if you want to have an engineering team in person with your tech lead or CTO, it's a really good city to be in.
Okay. Wow.
Yeah.
Listening to you, meeting you, Emir, is really interesting and fun. I'm an extrovert, so sometimes I struggle with people who come off as introverts. You're just dropping gold, but in a very direct way. You know, you're not sugarcoating any of it. You're not cutting corners. You're just saying like the facts, the data. These are the things that you should have to do. And the funny thing is, I'm gonna have to tell my co-founder Adam to move to San Francisco because I'm not moving. Anyway,
Why are you not going?
I'm too old for it. I made that decision. I don't want to be living because my family is in Turkey and a lot of my, all my relations are in Europe, etc. So for me, I worked in New York for a year and at Bain. This was in my consulting days, and I was waking up in a different time zone where everyone else that I loved was sleeping or not there. So that psychological distance
Yeah.
for me was a bit hard to bear, which is why I never considered living in the US for a long time.
Yeah, that's true too. Well, my family is in Turkey, but I'm moving them in 6 7 months, so it's gonna be
Oh
better.
wow.
But from the time that I moved, it's probably one of the biggest challenges. Someone from Europe, it's a big challenge, especially
Hmm.
if you're loved ones, and with New York we have a 3 hour difference, so it's with Europe we have an 11 hour time difference. Um, so it's a huge one, and it's another disadvantage, but probably for people that are from Europe. That's a big one that I missed.
Yeah.
But for me, if something increased my chance of success, even like 1%, and this is something that I've been telling, I'm managing our marketing and sales team at Hockeystack as CRO, and this is something that I remind them every day. Even if something increases our chance by 1%, I'm willing to do it. Sometimes Nate, Nate, someone from our sales team that I really love, sometimes he is not afraid, but like he doesn't ask me for some things, and he thinks they're really small things for like our
Hmm.
sales process,
Hmm.
our live demo instance on our website, and things like that. This is something that I tell him every day, even if it increases our chances by 1%, I'm willing to spend time on it. and San Francisco is something like that for me.
Shit, I should have started with this. Now you're opening up as we come to the end of the show. I love it. But that means I have to have you as a guest again. This was a great chat, Emir. Thank you so much for dropping all those gold nuggets for our listeners. I think there'll be lots of shorts coming from this conversation with very practical tips, but they will be in our media hub. Maybe we will share. This time it will be in both of our media hubs.
Sure. Thank you so much for having me on. It was a great chat.
My pleasure. Any closing remarks before I say our final words?
No, start doing content on LinkedIn. Do everything to increase your chances. Move to San Francisco. Yeah.
Okay, love that. Great. Now, Emil, our time is over and I need to cut it on the clock, just like any good therapist, which is a lie because we're clearly over time, but it will be an editing job now. That's a wrap on this episode of Sales Therapy. If you enjoy the show, subscribe to us on YouTube and your favorite podcast platform. I thank my dear guest, Emil, very much for this episode, and we'll be joining you again in the next episode soon. Bye.